Welcome to The Roll Call, the podcast where we dive into the roles that define us. I'm your host, John Glahn. On each episode, we explore the journeys of people discovering their true roles in life, business, and beyond. Get ready for inspiring conversations about finding purpose and authenticity. Let's roll the roll call. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Roll Call. I'm John Glahn. I have with me my guest, David Benn, who's managing partner at workinjuryrights.com. Where he leads a bunch of attorneys that are dedicated to protecting injured workers across Florida. And obviously, I've been connected through David through some mutual friends, and I've been excited and wanting to hang out with him for a long time. So I've got David here with me. I'm here. All are accounted for. Let's start the roll call. So welcome, Dave.
Hey, John. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Do you get upset when people call you Dave?
No, not
Okay.
at all.
All right. Well, we'll go with David Benn. He beat me in fantasy last year. So we'll just move on and just get that out of the way. And we were just jamming and talking about the business of law a little bit and the mechanics of law. So David, I'd love to start with how in the heck did you get into that seat right there doing what you're doing?
Oh boy.
Version of.
Well, so we have to take it way back. I grew up, my father was a personal injury lawyer, and he had I guess what would you call like a solo practice. He never had any associates. It was kind of always him. And I just kind of grew up in the business, so to speak. So when I graduated college, I didn't really have any specific direction I wanted to go in. And I'm like, okay, might as well go to law school. And the long story short is I graduated law school in 2005. I went to law school in the Philadelphia metropolitan area. That's where I grew up. Mm-hmm. And a friend of mine at the time was relocating to Florida. I'm like, let me go visit him in Florida. And I was like, after spending about a weekend in South Florida, I was like, I'm not going back to Philadelphia. So I, took the bar exam, and it just so happened that the first real job that I was offered as a licensed attorney was working for another small practice that did workers' compensation law here in Florida. Florida is very unique compared to what I was taught in New Jersey, which is where I went to law school. It's a much just different workers' comp system. Mm-hmm. So the whole thing kind of blew my mind when I started doing it. And ultimately, I just ended up staying in this industry. It's now, I'm trying to think, I've been a licensed attorney since 2006. So what are we going back now? 18 years, 19 years?
19
wow.
Years. Yeah.
And the industry has had ups and downs. There's been periods of time where it's been more lucrative, less lucrative. Now we're kind of operating in a period where it's more lucrative. Hopefully it stays that way. But that's kind of the long winding road I took to being a workers' comp lawyer.
Yeah. But then we were just talking about what do you consider yourself today? A lawyer or a business person? How much your time is spent on which?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I think at this point in time, I am roughly 1% lawyer and 99% business owner at this point in time.
Okay. And how long has it been like that? Or when did you move into the business side of things versus being an attorney?
So it's been more or less that way for the past 2 years. What happened is I was struggling through COVID and up until 2021, I was struggling with the idea of running the law firm, managing the law firm, and actually working in the law firm. And at that point in time, I was still handling a full caseload. Mm-hmm. And trying to juggle all those things was just really, it was very difficult, and it wasn't making me happy. Mm-hmm. So I was fortunate enough to have a mutual friend that was able to introduce me to a gentleman named Louis Scott, who's now the owner of 8-Figure Firm, they've grown tremendously into a big consulting group. But at the time, it was basically just Louis. Mm-hmm. And we started working together in 2021, and I really credit him for putting us on the path to scale the business.
Nice. So how many attorneys do you have?
Presently, we have in total, if you include the ownership group, which is 3 of us, so we have 12 attorneys total right now, 9 associates and 3 partners.
Wow, awesome. So, actually, let me go back to a question, something you brought up, like, hey, sometimes it's a lucrative place to be, and sometimes it's not. What causes it not to be?
What are you specifically referring to? I'm going to
Well, I
lost
know
you.
you had made a comment that, like, hey, sometimes, this has been, there are times when being in
Oh,
this
okay.
space is lucrative and sometimes it's not.
So workers' comp systems in every state. Where are you located, by the way, John?
I'm in Michigan.
Okay, you're in Michigan. So Michigan, I think blue state, I assume they probably have a favorable workers' comp law. But Florida, I don't want to get political in this podcast. Florida has primarily been a Republican-dominated state for decades.
Mhm.
And the general rules, and they're not always true. I know states that have Republican legislatures where they have very favorable laws for injured workers, but at least in Florida, since I've been here, they've kind of chipped away at the statute legislatively for the past 2 decades. We're very fortunate in that Supreme Court opinion. Every time they try to chip away at the statute, there's a constitutional challenge under the Florida state constitution that this action is unconstitutional.
Mhm.
Those challenges have been successful. So right now we're operating under a system where we can get paid reasonable attorney's fees for representing our clients, not only on the settlements we achieve for our clients, but also for obtaining benefits on behalf of our clients if we have to litigate for them. So right now, and this is always subject to change because the legislature could decide next session they want to come after us again. But currently we're operating under a system where we can do well.
Nice. Okay. Very good. Thank you for that clarification. Right, because that's the external forces that dictate how we operate. Right.
Yep.
I'm curious. Back when I don't know when the last time it was a rough time. Was it 10 years ago? Was it 5 years ago? Curious how you dealt with these changes that may have come up then, and I'm maybe asking a nebulous question here, versus how you could handle it now.
So we were in such a dramatically different position as a business when these things were challenges. I have to go back to probably 2013, 2014 when we first started the practice. I would say the number one difference between then is now we had a lot less people and I was doing a lot more work, and we ran a much smaller, tighter, less expensive operation. So that would be the primary difference. The way I would deal with it now, truth be told, if the Florida legislature enacted a law that would make it extremely difficult for us to continue to scale the company and scale the law firm and operate in Florida, I would simply look to geographically relocate the business to another state. I would hire lawyers in another state where it's more lucrative to practice law, and I would basically reinvent my marketing apparatus in a new jurisdiction. That's what I would do now. I'm already kind of planning for it, just in abundance of caution. I want to kind of test other markets and see what's the cost of acquisition of a new customer or new client in that market. How much money can we get out of these cases, and I kind of test, because that is something that I think I want to be prepared for just in case.
And that's the beauty of the entrepreneurial journey, right? I mean, many attorneys that I know, whether they're partners at a large firm or single shingle guy or whatever, right? Their identity is attorney, right? I'm an attorney. Now when you introduce yourself to someone, how do you introduce yourself? Now, David Benn.
No, I don't really put lawyer in front or back of that. It's interesting because before I really got focused on the business of law, and I was really focused on the practice of law, that really mattered a lot to me. It was really important to me that I had a good reputation, somebody that my opposition would respect, if not fear. And it's so funny that, like, it's just I don't really identify with that anymore. When you focus so much on the business operations of a law firm, all of those things that used to mean so much to you, you realize don't have any impact on the fundamentals of the business currently. My business is going to, as long as we continue to operate efficiently and correctly, we're going to continue to grow year over year. We're going to continue to acquire market share. And that's going to happen whether somebody thinks I'm a good lawyer or not.
Right.
And then the whole thing about whether it matters, and this is something that I think there's a lot of lawyers have a lot of pride and self-esteem built up into that. Like, I'm a lawyer, I'm a good one, everybody knows. Yeah. But the reality is, and from a business perspective, it doesn't mean anything. The clients that you are attracting or that you're trying to attract to your business, I don't think they care. Now, if you have accolades that you can use to market yourself, that's completely different. Mm-hmm. But you could be the greatest lawyer in the world, but if the client journey of your business sucks, your business is going to suck. If you don't have good people working for you that know how to take care of your clients, that know how to efficiently operate, then it doesn't matter how good of a lawyer you are.
Yeah, so, you know what? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So my thinking on all of these things has shifted dramatically.
Yeah, because I keep hearing you say business, right? Oh my God, you're running a business. Do you consider yourself an entrepreneur now?
It's hard to say whether I consider myself an entrepreneur, just because this is I mean, in a sense, yes, but this is not anything that hasn't been done before, whether it's in my market or other markets. I mean, there's firms that do what I do that have achieved 50, 60, $70 million revenue and just focusing in my space in other states. Is that achievable in Florida? I don't know. But yes, I don't look at myself as like a practicing. Now, the lawyers that work for me, their mindset has to be like my mindset used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. They have a job to do, right? That's their job.
That's their job. And the benefit for them is that they don't have, like I used to have to worry about all those things when I was practicing in the back of my head. They don't have to worry about that. They don't have to worry about how are we getting business. They don't have to worry about who's going to work here, who's going to train them, all of those things are taken off their plate. You just need to be a lawyer and be a good lawyer. That's it. Yeah. And I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah, and because again, coming back to that same damn word called business, right? That we came back to. Every business has the same thing. Every business has to attract customers. Every business has to do the work, whatever it is, make the widget, service them, do whatever, and then they have to get paid. Like, there are three just basic fundamental things of business. And the more we think that we're so different than everyone else is the further we get away from actually trying to how we grow a business. So, so you nailed it. Right now you're just working on, like, the attorney is the attorney. They're the widget. They're the worker that's doing the work. And if we create the machine around them and the right things around them, that's real business. And if customers, they still regard, like to your point, someone can be the greatest attorney in the world, the brightest attorney in the world, but if it takes them 4 months to get something done that someone could do in 2 weeks just because they know how to efficiently do it, that's a terrible customer journey. That's not a repeatable process, right? And so the more that you do, make sure it is about that journey and getting repeat customers and referral customers and all those things, right? It's the same business principles. It's just so interesting how so many people think, well, but our industry is different. Not when it comes down to the fundamentals, right?
When it comes down to the fundamentals, I think there's no difference between a McDonald's and a law firm. At the end of the day, are law firms more highly regulated in some respects? Yes. Do we have limitations in the way we can advertise in certain jurisdictions? Yes. But at the end of the day, I mean, you're right. You have to attract new clients. You have to convert those clients into, revenue. Mm-hmm. And you need to build the systems and processes that enable that to happen in the most efficient, cost-effective way possible. And hopefully you have a business that people want to send business to, that clients advocate for you and can refer you business. And that's kind of been the coolest part about this whole thing as we've scaled, because I think, man, I have to look back. I could probably pull it up on my computer now, but we're going to sign up probably 1,500 new clients this year. In 2021, I'd have to look, but we're probably getting 10% of our new business from client referrals, which is not something that we were seeing historically back then. And it's just pretty cool that as time goes on, as you continue to invest and really work on the client experience, how that thing is just like a dividend that keeps paying over and over and just keeps growing. And that's kind of been the coolest part about it, is just to see, wow, we must be doing something good if we're getting more business from just our clients year over year. And I think that's natural also, right? As your client base grows and you service more people, there's more opportunity for you to obtain referrals.
Yeah, if you're focused on doing the right things, right? I mean, just by getting more, if your nature of your business isn't repeat customers, right? Recurring revenue, and they're new each and every time, it might be pretty low because you just know how to attract customers. But if their story's not getting out, if it's a bad experience, or, again, if you're not asked, like, this is the one thing that people don't do. Amazing how many businesses that I talk to and deal with that they don't ask for referrals. Just asking a simple question, like, that's the easiest place you can get business, is by someone who is excited to work with you and is willing to share someone else. And one of the most fundamental things, it's the cheapest customer you can ever get. But yet people always focus on getting new customers and forget about the easy ones they could possibly get. Right. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's so vital to what we do, because hopefully, right, in somebody's lifespan, we represent people who obviously get injured on the job. Hopefully that only happens to them one time. Hopefully,
Right.
That's why they call the injury space on a high level, people call it the single event space. The single event means like it's going to happen in one time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a transactional lawyer that's going to potentially be hired multiple times by the same client. So, that's the best type of referral you can obtain.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm looking at, I wanted to pull up the numbers like in 2021, we only had 6.9% of our business come from client referrals. And that's basically almost doubled over 5 years. But our signups have doubled or tripled. Actually, I'm sorry, my signups have maybe, let me see here. Tripled,
I love
yeah.
your fingertips. That's great.
So I just think that's number one. I think that's the easiest place to start, because not everybody can start off spending millions of dollars a year in advertising. It's just not possible for every business. So the number one place to start, and I think this is an ongoing, evolving process that you have to continue to work on and evaluate, is, are we servicing our clients to the best of our ability? Are our clients happy? And this is any business.
Yep.
And do our clients advocate for us by referring this business? If you can build businesses that are very successful on those things alone. So that's something that we really do look at. We're constantly requiring or requesting net promoter scores from clients. We're constantly screening those ones for both the positive and the negative ones, because if there's a negative net promoter score, we want to know why.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in any business, the more people you service, the more challenging it is to make sure that the entirety of that customer population is having a good experience. It's the reality of life.
Nature. Right.
You can tell me your favorite restaurant in Michigan. I guarantee you there's somebody who wrote a bad review about it, even though you might think it's the greatest restaurant ever. Absolutely. So that's the hard part, is knowing you're not going to be perfect in the execution of the service. And it's hard. But that's something that I think, like, if I was going to take myself back to 2014 when we started this business, I would have definitely tried to figure that out quicker. Because I thought, in my warped mind, when I was running this business back then, we were starting the practice, we were just scraping to get clients and handle files, is, you should be happy because I'm your lawyer. Like, I really thought that in my head. And I'm not really like a self-centered person, but I was like, you could have this person who stinks, or you could have this person that doesn't care about their clients. You have me. I care. I fight. I want to do a good job for you. But the reality is, like, those things don't translate unless you're implementing things within your business to let people know that. And that's the part of the equation that I missed for a very long period of time. And I'm happy. I think we have it. We're doing it good right now. I mean, are we doing it perfectly? I would say no. I don't think that's possible. But I think it's an area that you can always strive to make gains, for sure.
Oh, absolutely. So back to your 1% attorney time, 99% business. What of that 99%? What are you actually? What's your role right now?
So my primary role is to oversee the marketing and finance of the business. So constantly evaluating, we have these ratios we like to operate the business within as we're scaling. So I'm constantly evaluating whether all of our business expenses are lining up within those ratios. We're not always within budget all the time. So I look at the financials, and then the marketing is a big aspect of what we do, because we budget every year for 25% minimum of our top line to be reinvested in the marketing. And that's allowed us to scale the company. I was trying to look back. So in 2021, we did 2.4 million in gross revenue. And this year we're on target for about 8.4 million in gross revenue.
Awesome.
So, and then next year we think, I'm making a little prayer right now, we could hit 10 million. So in making that investment, just committing to that year over year, it was painful at the start. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But
is that your sauce to growth? Is it just marketing, or are you looking at, how do you look at hiring another attorney? Or that's not on the growth side. I guess you're probably managing attorneys based on what you're going to grow.
Correct. So first comes the growth, and then we would bring in the attorney, and then based on the level of growth, we decide. And we kind of have a pretty good idea of, as our file counts grow and the total volume of the total volume of clients we service grows, we know exactly where we need to add personnel. Is marketing the sauce for growth? I would say unequivocally yes. Word of mouth can only travel so far, period. So you're in Michigan, I think, there's a lot of big advertising. I mean, Mike Morse comes to mind as a big advertising lawyer in Michigan. So there's no question in the injury space, the single event space, the number one way to grow is to market your law firm and to get as many people in your market to know who you are.
Yeah, because that's the other fun part that we understanding and thinking about, that most people are marketing in many cases is such a nebulous thing, right? Big companies struggle with what to do with marketing, and why? It's because if they're a B2B, marketing isn't the sauce. It's right. It's the sales. It's the selling activity in a B2B. On the B2C, it's awareness. So business to consumer, and that's what you guys are. You are going to the consumer. So you've got to have the awareness, and that's where, it's marketing sales, right? Versus in a B2B, it's marketing sales as far as spend and focus. So, I'm just curious of what's the, obviously it's a pretty good growth plan for sure for next year. Is that, when you guys are going into how to hyperscale, are we just trying to get the best we can out of Florida? Is it just Southeast Florida? What's the sauce to really grow?
So number one, I think it takes money. That's the number one thing. So first of all, you have to have the money to spend on the marketing. I am operating in South Florida is one of the most competitive injury markets, and I'm competing against law firms, that have big budgets. Not necessarily, when I say competing, I'm not competing for what I do with those law firms, but I'm competing for attention. And when I look at marketing, I really kind of break it down into two main things. You have your direct response marketing and you have your brand marketing. And what I've been struggling with for, I would say, the past couple of years now, is to try to figure out what is the exact ratio between direct response and branding that makes sense to continue to grow the business. And that's still that's an ongoing work in progress for us, because every time we try to invest in brand, we just don't see the same results in terms of client acquisition that we do when we invest that money in direct response. And even when we try to look at, okay, so let's look beyond just customer acquisition. Let's look at, is this brand actually, is it penetrating? Is it making impact? Are we seeing more branded search digitally? And even those metrics, we haven't gotten favorables on. So I'm still working through that to try to figure out, okay, how do I brand this business in a way that makes sense for us and that actually moves the needle? Because some of the campaigns, I mean, we just spent 12 months doing a Spanish language campaign in radio and billboards, and it didn't provide the lift that we were expecting. Mm-hmm. So that's something that it's not all sunshine and rainbows here. We're trying to still evaluate how to efficiently spend the money in the best way possible to continue to scale.
Yeah, because I think that's the key learning is you've got to test it. You've got to measure it. Right? Marketing there isn't a secret sauce for everything, right? Are you measuring it to know if it's like, hey, we're down shit creek without a paddle? You're 6 months down the road. That's too late.
You have to test, and you have to accept that like what worked in one market is not necessarily going to work in your market, and what worked for another firm in your market is not necessarily going to work for your firm. So that's kind of the cool thing I love about marketing is like, it's like, as soon as I think I can put it on autopilot, like the universe tells me, nope, you can't. So it's like, that's the thing that's challenging for me is like, there's a part of me that wishes I could just put it on autopilot, set it and forget it. But I'm constantly looking at these numbers all the time. Like micro data, cost per lead per, direct response is much more easy to attribute. Branding, you cannot attribute. But when I'm investing in direct response, and we spent over $1 million on direct response just this year to date, I'm looking at those attributions. I'm looking at my cost per lead. I'm looking at my conversion rates, and trying to figure out like, if I'm using 4 different direct response channels, like should I be spreading my money around in these 4 channels? Should I be putting more into this channel? So it's really this constant assessment for me, and it gives me something to do. But I really do wish, in a dream world, I wish maybe one day I'll hire a CMO and make them responsible for that. But yeah, it's a lot of work, to be honest.
Yeah, to do it effectively and to do it well. And well, thankfully, it sounds like you're at least honed into marketing and into finance. Doesn't sound like you're trying to run the whole show and do all those things, right?
No, so I'm very fortunate. My other partners deal with like I have a chief operating officer that really deals with operations and does a wonderful job. Mm-hmm. And one of my law partners is primarily dealing with the attorneys, that's a whole separate management. Mm-hmm. And then another one of my partners is responsible for essentially the client satisfaction apparatus, the customer journey. Mm. So yes, if I had to manage everything, then I'd be overwhelmed.
Yeah,
I'd have to add to my leadership team because I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm telling you right now. I think it's too challenging.
Yeah, no, again, it comes back to what the hell, you're running a business. How about that? So a massive applause, and it sounds like you wouldn't, that's not stuff you can read books, and you can try to learn and talk to different people and network, and then you figure out how to do things. But, it sounds like there's an acceleration by, meeting Louis Scott and other things, right?
Definitely. I always give him a shout out because definitely wouldn't be here today without his help and guidance for sure.
Well, that's fantastic. All right. Well, good stuff, man. And I am constantly more intrigued as we were talking, right, of the more discussions I have in the attorney space. And the more even I'm driving down the highway and seeing billboards and, the specializations and, whether it's injury, personal injury, work injury. And like, to your point of like, there's a lot of noise out there when you're not looking for someone, but when you are looking for someone, how you really differentiate to say, this is and niche down into what you're doing, right? It helps you. I mean, how much easier is it than trying to say we do business law and we do mass tort, all those things, right? you have a clear and concise message and who you're targeting, right?
Yeah, and we're going to be shooting some new creative and recording new creative in November. That's I don't want to say anything now, but I think it's going to be like a new brand image for us. I think it's going to really kind of hone in on who we are and what we do. I'm excited about the concept, but I think at the end of the day, whatever you're doing, you want to capture people's attention. You want to stand out. If you're getting into a market where there's 800-pound gorillas, I don't think, like, for example, in the injury space, you can go anywhere in America right now, I think, in any major metro. If you're driving down a major highway, you're going to see billboards for personal injury law firms. Mm-hmm. And then, the real question is that what you should be doing? And I would say, unless you have the budget of an 800-pound gorilla or the financing available to an 800-pound gorilla, which I highly doubt you do, I think you should find somewhere else to see where your message can take hold, where you can hit your target audience, you can hit your major demos, and be different. In fact, I think I have a book on my shelf here. Yeah, Michael Michalowicz, who I think is the author of Profit First. He wrote a marketing book that nobody talks about. I think I read the book. I thought it was a great book. It's called Get Different. And that's basically the concept of the book, is that it goes over all the successful marketing campaigns of businesses that decided to market differently. And I haven't really been super bold yet in terms of what we're doing yet, so I can't sit here and say I've marketed differently. Yeah. I think just marketing in my business makes you different, because the overwhelming majority of workers' comp law firms in Florida do not really market. Mm-hmm. So we've been different in that way, but we haven't been different really with our messaging and our approach. But I think if we're going to leave here with a book recommendation, I think for anybody that's looking at ideas in terms of how to market their business, regardless of what your business is, I would pick up that book. It's an easy read, and it was interesting.
Awesome. He does such a great job of simplifying, right? I mean, I think it's hard to make things easy, and it's really easy to make things hard. I think he does a really good job of simplifying, right? In many of his books.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that one. Actually, another quick question that popped into my head. So, speaking of other markets and where to go next, where do you go to get knowledge of of knowing when to strategically or methodically check out a new space, a new territory?
So we've been focused only on Florida, which is our home base. Mm-hmm. So what I would do, and kind of this would just be my mindset and how to approach this, and the person that somebody should talk to about this is John Morgan, because they've done it in
or the people,
but they've done it in so many markets successfully. Mm-hmm. And I've heard him say something to the effect first we shoot bullets, then we drop bombs. Yeah, I don't think that's a quote. I think that's a paraphrase. I'm not suggesting John Morgan's a warmonger. Much respect to John Morgan. I think you have to figure out, and it's hard to do. I would do it in a very simple way. I would market to acquire cases in that market. I would develop an of-counsel relationship with somebody in that market, so I could be legally, ethically advertising that market. I would enter into a referral agreement with that lawyer, and I would start to compile the data in terms of how much money it's costing me to acquire new clients, and how much money are we getting out of this in terms of on a per case basis. And I would work the math that way. That's the way I would do it. What you can do is, if you we work with a lot of different direct response marketing vendors, and you really just try to figure out what's the cost of acquisition in these certain states, because the cost of a new client for a workers' comp lawyer is not the same in Florida as it is in California or Georgia or South Carolina. So you kind of have to figure out that first, and then figure out on the back end how much can we make on that file on average. And you need a decent sample size to kind of get an idea for that. So that's the way I would approach it before I entered a market. I wouldn't just enter a market without knowing the data. And other law firms are not going to give you necessarily the data, because they're why am I going to feed this information to a potential competitor? So I think the best way to do it is to form an of-counsel relationship, market to get the cases, refer those cases to this law firm, and then figure out, is this, can this be a profitable venture?
Mhm.
Because ultimately, yeah, I mean, you gotta basically do a cost benefit analysis and then figure out, because you might just be satisfied with the co-counsel relationship and say, you know what, I don't really want to get 100% of the fee. I'm going to have to get office space. I'm going to have to hire staff. I'm going to have to hire a lawyer. You might not want to undertake those expenses, or you might be like, wow, this is pretty good. I think we should do that. So,
right.
And we might, in the very near future, we might start testing other geographic locations. I have some thoughts and ideas on where I'd like to go.
Awesome. Well, it's clear to see at least you've got an idea of how to go do that, right? Some people freeze. Like, how do we go do it? Like, well, I don't know. We're going to invest a ton of money and try it out, right? And if you do that, I like the rifle versus and drop a bomb. I love that. We'll quote it. We'll put it in quotations. We'll say that John Morgan.
It's not from me. Yes, it's not from me.
No, right.
Very clear. I don't even know if it's from him. I might be making that up. But
sounds good. But it felt real and good.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, hey, man, I like to finish things off with having the guest provide us with a failure or a mistake, something that's happened to them that and go as deep as you'd like, that they benefited from, and hopefully maybe someone else can learn from.
I think the biggest mistakes I've made, now I'll just keep this like a business perspective. If we go into personal, we'd be here for an hour.
Yeah.
I think letting fear get in the way. And every time I've been afraid, to implement a new marketing channel, to take on a new marketing endeavor, any times where, because, I thought the business was too stressed and I pulled back on the marketing lever and spent less money, it's always, always, always been a mistake. So, especially for businesses that are scaling, and this is just anecdotal and might be just personal to my business. If you're going to if you have to make cuts anywhere, in your business, do not make the cut to your marketing budget, because you will pay for that. I think, last year we signed up less cases than the year before. So in 2024, we signed up less clients than we did in 2023, not by a wide margin, but, a couple points. And it's all because I felt a lot of stress and pressure, and I was afraid, and we just reduced our budget when we should have made the tough decisions. Because it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to just stop spending money on something. It's a lot more difficult to have to look somebody in the eye and say, we have to let go of you. But I've learned that that's unfortunately what you have to do if the mindset is growth. And that's basically the best kind of advice I can give.
Wow. I think there's a number of things in there that I heard. One is certainly in a B2C, right? Because again, you're right, in most companies, the marketing is the first thing because again, it is so easy to just cut back.
Easy.
But to have the courage to lean into, no, we're still trying to grow here. What else can we actually look at, right? Because what you don't do today, you're going to feel that effect 6 months from now, 12 months from now, et cetera. So I've got plenty of scar tissue from that myself. Again, knowing now we're suffering is because we didn't do something 12 months ago. That's
a true credit to Luis Scott is he always told me never to cut from, and he was right. And I kind of was, and it's the easiest thing to cut. It's the easiest expense to cut. You're not getting rid of people. You're telling the vendor we're spending less money here. We're not spending any money there. Google or Facebook's not going to miss your money.
Right. Yeah.
But the reality is that's if you're still trying to grow and you're still trying to accelerate that growth, you have to look elsewhere to make those cuts. And those are the hardest cuts to make.
Yeah. And I think the other part of that you were sharing is activity versus inactivity, or you can plan so much that you take too long to make a decision because you're frozen in the fear, right? Taking some form of action is always going to be better than trying to discern it to get to the point where it's a good idea or a bad idea, right? Take some incremental step versus I've got a big chunk to go do here and I'm going to wait to do the whole thing. Well, by the whole time you wait, things have passed you by. And again, boom, time kills deals is another key one. So great nuggets for learning there. David, appreciate your time. Had a blast jamming with you. I know the best is yet to come for workinjuryrights.com. Look out, South Florida. How can people get in touch with you or the firm?
Yeah, you can go to our website, workinjuryrights.com. We're all over social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. If anybody has any questions or wants to talk to me, it doesn't even have to be about law or workers' comp law. It can be about anything. You can find us on there and reach out.
Awesome. Work Injury Rights. That sounds like that's transportable to about any territory. Love that. So. All right. Good stuff, everyone. Again, thanks again, David. Everyone, that's a wrap on the show today. Thanks for tuning in to The Roll Call with John Glahn. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe for more insightful conversations. Remember, discovering your true role in life is a journey worth exploring each and every day. Until next time, keep defining your path and living your authentic self. This is John Glahn signing off.